Sup you beautiful people. Hope you've had a fantastic day. Welcome back to another new episode of What If Deku Was the Sun Hero. If you guys enjoyed this what if, comment down below and let me know. And go ahead and check out other what ifs in the channel after watching this video. Before we get into it though, don't forget to subscribe and leave a like, and also share this video with your friends. So let's start this video. That's all anyone could call the first half of UA High School's day. Completely normal subjects, like math, English, classical Japanese, were taught as if they were at a normal high school. The only difference was that they were taught by pro heroes for these mundane subjects. Pro heroes like Ectoplasm teaching mathematics, or Present Mick teaching English. It was the epitome of normal for a school barring that one difference. When the lunch bell rang, the whole of one made their way towards the cafeteria. The reactions to the first half of their classes were varied. Some, like Mina, Kaminari, Sero, and Toru looked wiped out, while others, including Momo, Iida, Bakugo, and Izuku weren't bothered by the lessons much. This food makes morning classes all better. Mina smiled happily as she ate. It's good, Toga agreed with a smile as she sat next to Izuku. Not as full of love as Mama Inko's cooking though. I doubt anyone can put that much love in their cooking, Himiko-chan. Izuku chuckled as he ate. Inko had burst into a fountain of tears the first time Toga had called her Mama Inko. The blonde was nearly crushed by the hug she'd been wrapped in by the emotional verdette woman. Izuku still got a chuckle out of it to this day. Both Inko and Hisashi were in favor of Izuku and Himiko eventually marrying in the future. Likewise, Toga's parents were all for the idea, considering Izuku was the one helping their daughter be normal. Honestly, Izuku didn't like how much emphasis Toga's parents put on being normal and fitting in. They had practically smothered their daughter with such expectations after all. He hated to think what might have happened if he and Toga hadn't met back in junior high. You two are so adorable. Toru cooed at the couple. Toga beamed at her new friend, and Izuku smiled at the invisible girl. What do you think our first heroics class is going to entail? Kirishima asked from the other side of the table. The Redhead was munching on his food with a curious look around the table. I'd guess introductory things, maybe some basic training. Momo surmised as she had a thoughtful look. Basic training seems likely. Tsuyu placed her index finger on her cheek. I hope it's not another pass or be expelled thing. Sato shook his head. Azal was scared to hack out at me with that. No kidding, Jiro shivered slightly. When he said that, I almost panicked. Ichako nodded to the perplet with her mouth full. Toga thought she looked cute scarfing down her rice like that. We just have to do our best. Mina raised her fist into the air with a bright grin. Indeed, Iida nodded to the pinket. We shall give our all to become great heroes in the future. If it wasn't for the fact that he had utensils in his hands, Izuku felt like Iida would be chopping the air to accompany his statement. After lunch, Class 1 was sitting at their desks waiting for their teacher to arrive. The first heroics class had many of them hyped up. This was what all the work to get into UA was about. Training to become heroes. All 20 students perked up when a very familiar laugh sounded out. I'm here, the boisterous voice called out. Coming through the door like a normal person. All Might threw open the door to Class 1A. He held onto the frame as he leaned into the classroom. The students erupted into cries of shock and excitement. Holy crap! Kaminari shouted. It's really All Might. Kirishima cheered with his fists raised. All Might is our teacher. Izuku was smiling widely, and Toga was smothering her giggles. All Might had always been Izuku's favorite hero. Getting to see the man up close, talk to him, and learn from the number one was a dream come true for her boyfriend. He also looked cute with sparkles practically coming from his eyes. All Might made his way to the podium and put his fists on his hips, his trademark smile practically shining at the teens. I will be teaching foundational heroics. In this class, we will be pushing all of you to your limits, so that you can learn the basics of being a hero. We'll be here after lunch every day, sometimes only with me, while other times we'll have another of your teachers assisting. This class also has the most units per semester, so slacking off will see you quickly losing your spot in the hero course. The number one hero warned the class. The blonde man held a card in his hand. With that said, let's get right into it. Your first class shall be combat training. The card he was holding did indeed have the word battle written on it. Combat Bakugo was grinning viciously. He was beyond excited. The scores from yesterday's assessment wouldn't mean a thing once he aced this class. For this class you'll need these. All Might clicked a button, and several panels popped out of the wall on the far side of the room. Each of them had 5 metal cases labeled from 1 to 20, matching the students' seating numbers. In accordance with your Quirk registries as well as your own written requests, these are your. The number one didn't even get to finish as he was drowned out by the students. Costumes. The class shouted in glee. All of them were practically shaking with excitement. This was the real deal. They finally get to wear the costumes they'd come up with. That's right. All Might yelled, smiling at them all. After you change, meet at Ground Alpha. Ground Alpha. All Might stood on Ground Alpha, fists again on his hips as he waited for his students to start coming out of the tunnel and into Ground Alpha proper. His grin widened as he saw the first of them walk into the light. They say the costume makes the hero, young students. The number one hero looked over each of them and noted what he saw of the costumes. Young Higakure looked like she needed some instruction. The teen was clearly not wearing anything beyond a pair of gloves and sneakers. He'd have to discuss this with his colleagues. Surely, they could help the invisible teen get a real costume. Mimetic polymers and other materials that incorporated a person's own hair cells into their costume had come a long way from when he debuted as a hero. Surely something of that nature could be applied to Higakure. Be proud. From this moment on, you are heroes. All Might leaned forward with his trademark smile. Shall we begin, you bunch of newbies? Your costume is great, Achako. Toga complimented her new friend as they waited for All Might to grab a box he had next to his feet. I like yours too, Toga. Achako smiled as she looked over her friend's hero costume. It was styled after a typical school sailor uniform, but even to the brunette's eyes, she could tell the fabric was padded and reinforced for protection. Is that Kevlar? Yep. Izuku helped me design it. It'll stop most bullets and it's knife-proof. Toga smiled as she did a small twirl to show the whole costume off. What I'm really happy about is this. She smiled as she pulled the collar down to reveal part of the sports bra underneath. Izuku helped me find out about Quirk-compatible fibers online, and I submitted some of my hair for testing. It worked out in my case. The sports bra and spats I'm wearing under my costume are almost completely made of my own hair blended with synthetic mimetic fibers. They'll stay on and keep me from being naked when I deactivate my quirk. No more embarrassing naked moments for me. That's great. Ichako smiled, even though her cheeks were just a bit redder than usual. Toga had told the other girls about her quirks problem in their group chat. Quirks were one of the first things the girls had talked about after all. I'm glad you don't have to deal with that anymore. Me too. Toga giggled. It was just out of the corner of her eye that she noticed him, Mineta, the creepy pervert in their class. He had apparently slunk over towards her and Achako while they were talking, and his eyes hadn't left her chest, probably since she'd shown Achako the portion of her sports bra. All the girls in their class watched as the creep accidentally tripped on flat ground and fell towards Toga's exposed legs. Said blonde didn't have time to try and move away, and all of the other girls already felt bad that she was going to be touched by the little pervert. Ha! Mineta was stopped from falling by a booted foot. Looking up the leg the foot was attached to, Mineta locked eyes with Izuku. The verdette didn't look amused. Since Mineta was resting on his boot, Izuku simply high-kicked and launched the pervert high into the air. Mineta's screams of terror as he rocketed into the air drew All Might's attention. The number one hero blinked as he looked between Toga, Izuku, Achako, and then the rapidly disappearing Mineta. You okay, Himiko? Izuku asked his girlfriend. Toga smiled happily before hugging him. Yep. Toga smiled while popping the pea. You always save me when I need you. She giggled while snuggling into his chest. Holy shit. Kaminari exclaimed as he lost sight of Mineta in the sky. I think he just yeeted Mineta into the stratosphere. Good. Every girl in class 1 stated flatly, their faces all deadpan. It spoke volumes that in only a single day, none of the girls thought Izuku had gone overboard with Mineta. The short teen's perverted nature had made him no friends amongst the girls of his class. Definitely going to have a talk with young Mineta. All Might thought to himself as he looked into the sky to find the boy. Spotting the teen in the sky, the symbol of peace leapt into the air. All Might met Mineta before the grape-themed teen could begin his descent. Grabbing the student by the back of his costume, All Might slowed their fall with a few well-placed stomps against the air. His immense strength created blasts of wind with each kick, and the duo landed a bit away from the rest of the students. Setting the teen down All Might's side, it looked like he'd need to enlist Aizawa's help to set young Mineta straight about his behavior. No more of that, young Mineta. All Might warned the teen. Mineta, still shaking from his impromptu flight, nodded rapidly. Young Midoriya, refrain from putting your classmates in life-threatening situations. This is your one and only warning, am I clear? Yes, All Might. I got a bit carried away, my apologies. Izuku bowed his head. Toga hugged him tighter. If anyone could see her face though, they'd probably be shocked by the vicious grin on her lips. Knowing that Izuku was willing to protect her like that was heartwarming. But it also fanned the flames of her more aggressive tendencies too. Hopefully whatever they were doing today would help her calm down a bit. If not, Izuku could help her out after class. The blonde stifled a giggle at her own naughty thoughts. Your costume came out great, Izuku. Toga complimented her boyfriend with a bright smile. Izuku's costume consisted of a large dark green vest, padded with Kevlar, and matching pants. A belt with a large golden buckle in the shape of a lion's head secured his pants. On his feet were brown boots, and on his back was his only support gear. A large modified fireman's axe hung from a special belt holster across Izuku's back. Aside from the golden color, it looked normal enough at first glance, but it clearly had some extra features built in. The most notable being what looked like vents where half met head. Many of the students were curious about what the large axe could do. Now, without any more interruptions, All Might looked over Mineta, Izuku, and then the rest of Class 1A. Let's begin. Sensei. Iida's hand shot into the air. All Might gave the teen a nod, and Iida spoke. This appears to be a wide open plain. What kind of combat training are we doing here? Excellent question, young Iida. All Might pointed at the teen in his white armor-like costume. Today we'll be getting a baseline of your combat abilities by having you go toe-to-toe with each other. This will let me see where you stand now, as well as how you use your quirks. How will matches be chosen? Momo asks with her hand raised. Is there a time limit? Kirishima questioned next. How bad can we rough up our opponent? Bakugo yelled over the others. Hold on. Hold on. All Might held up his hands. My quirk isn't super hearing, you know. He shook himself before regaining his composure. We'll be randomizing the matches by drawing lots. Heroes don't get to choose what villains they'll have to confront in the field. This randomization will help simulate that. With that, All Might called each student up by their seat number and had them draw a lot from the box in his hands. Toga, seat number 13, pulled out a lot that had the letter H on it. Looking around, she wondered which of her classmates had the other H lot. Let's see, Izuku mumbled as he reached into the box. At seat number 18, there weren't many lots left for him to pick. Ha, first again it looks like. He chuckled as he glanced at the large A on his lot. Damn it, Bakugo growled as he noticed that Izuku's lot didn't match with his. All Might had to stoop down to let Mineta pick his lot. The relieved sigh the short teen gave off must have meant he didn't get anyone he was immediately terrified of. Momo picked hers next and looked over her classmates. It seemed that Shoji, the tallest guy in their class, would be her opponent. Last was Todoroki, who picked out the final lot. Izuku raised an eyebrow when the teen with the two-toned hair turned to face him. The other A lot in his hand explained why though. Alright then, All Might spoke loudly. Does everyone have their opponent? Getting nods from all of the students made the blonde man smile. Good, then we'll start with the first match. Lot A, Europe. Both Todoroki and Izuku made their way out to the middle of the large flat field. Fairly simple rules, young Todoroki, young Midoriya. Absolutely no lethal force, no harming any of your waiting classmates, and if I declare the match over, it is over. Are we clear? Yes, sensei. Izuku nodded to his idol. Yes, sir. Todoroki stated, his eyes not leaving Izuku. Good, when I say start you may begin. All Might instructed, but he stopped when Izuku held up his hand. Yes, young Midoriya. Could you hold on to this for me, sensei? Izuku asked as he removed his support gear axe from his back. All Might nodded in agreement and took the golden axe from the verdette. Todoroki's eyes widened, the first real emotion the teen had shown in the last 2 days, as All Might's arm dropped slightly when the axe fell into his hand. Oof, it's heavier than it looks. All Might chuckled as he hefted the axe over his right shoulder. Now that he'd gotten a feel for the weight, he wielded it like a child held an empty paper towel tube. Thank you, sensei. Izuku nodded to the man. Of course, All Might waved off. Ready? Start. With a leap backwards, All Might was standing next to the rest of Class 1A. Are you sure you don't need your support gear? Todoroki asked flatly. Not for this. Izuku shook his head as heat began to radiate from him, and he grew and bulked up. Todoroki's left eye, the one with the burned scar, twitched as he felt the heat. It wouldn't make a difference either way. Todoroki stated as he raised his right hand. You've yet to even face me in this state. Izuku chuckled with amusement seeping into his voice. Yet you already declare your victory regardless. Confident, aren't you? Todoroki's response was to send a wave of ice and frost across the majority of the field. Everything on Izuku's side was encased in the ice near instantly. I told you. Todoroki sighed. White mist escaped the teen's mouth from the newfound chill in the air. That was insane. Kaminari blinked as he watched Todoroki freeze half the field and Izuku along with it. He won instantly. He hasn't won anything, Toga giggled, and everyone, including All Might, looked at the girl confused. Izuku hasn't even tried yet. Boom. The blast shook the field as all of Todoroki's ice shattered into a steam burst from the rapid shift in temperature. The heterochromatic student was sent flying backwards from the shockwave and barely stayed upright. Standing exactly where he'd been frozen was the, now towering, form of Izuku. Heat haze was rolling off his body as all the ice disappeared. How did you do that? Todoroki looked even more shocked than the rest of the class. Your quirk is interesting, but it's not nearly cold enough to do me any harm. Izuku chuckled. Come, let's continue the match. Todoroki narrowed his eyes as he sent an even larger wave of ice at Izuku. Much to his shock, the verdette practically exploded into flames. The wave of ice was met with an intense blast of fire. The conflicting temperatures caused another thermal shockwave that sent Todoroki stumbling. Izuku didn't even flinch from the blast. It seems I'll have to get serious. Todoroki stated coldly as frost began to form along his right arm. What came next stunned the entire class. Even All Might had to crane his neck to look up in amazement. A fucking glacier now existed on ground alpha. A massive amount of ice completely covered the field, except the area where Todoroki was standing, and it was only a dozen meters or so away from the rest of the class. Many of the girls, thanks to their skin-tight costumes, or lack of clothing in Toru's case, shivered at the sudden drop in temperature. I think Todoroki wins now. Sero chattered out as he wrapped his arms around his body from the cold. I prefer heat to cold. Toga grumbled as she shivered. I hope Izuku fixes this soon. All of her classmates looked at her like she was crazy. Did she not see the glacier in front of them? He dropped jaws as the glacier began to steam and rapidly melt. Ha 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 ha. Izuku chuckled loudly as the glacier melted around him. The streams of water pouring off the rapidly melting ice, also turning to steam from the heat he was radiating out as fire surrounded him. To think I'd find such a strong person amongst my classmates. Your Quirk is very impressive, Todoroki. He praised his classmate. Todoroki looked thunderstruck at Izuku's ability to shrug off his most powerful attack. Izuku glanced over Todoroki's shivering body. Half of the teen appeared to be covered in frost. It almost matched the left side of his costume with the ice covering it. You seem cold, Todoroki. Don't worry about it. Todoroki exhaled frosted breath as he tried to stop his shivering. Nonsense, Izuku grinned at the other teen. Let me help you warm up. The vedette raised his left hand into the air, and everyone watched while holding their breath. Toga being the only exception, she grinned widely at what was about to happen. Midday sun. Izuku intoned, and about 30 meters directly above him a second sun seemingly swirled into existence. The heat wave this release blew through ground alpha and wiped any remaining traces of cold away. The new sun hung in the air without moving. Many of the teens wondered if Izuku was going to throw it at Todoroki in retaliation for the earlier glacier. So, is he going to attack with that or what? Kaminari blinked as the mini-sun continued to stay motionless. Only the flares of fire that occasionally escaped the massive sphere were moving at all. Nope. Toga grinned as she removed the Kevlar-padded sweater portion of her costume. The cotton and carbon nanofiber blend of her Sailor Fuku-inspired top revealed. That's an AoE move. If you can remove any layers, I'd recommend it. It's going to get really hot the longer Izuku keeps that up. She's right. Momo confirmed as she'd already made a digital thermometer with her Quirk. The temperature is steadily rising even at our distance. I can't imagine the level of heat those two are experiencing standing directly onto that micro-sun. Well, are you warmer now, Todoroki? Izuku questioned his opponent as massive heat haze almost obscured their view of each other. How are you doing this? Todoroki panted as he was focusing on keeping his body cool with his eyes. The left side of his costume was already a lost cause. It had melted away in a matter of moments. How can you maintain this level of pyrokinesis? You shouldn't be able to even speak. All of your focus should be on maintaining that fire. I've trained long and hard with my Quirk, Izuku informed the other teen. My heat resistance was incredibly high from birth. Through hard work over the last almost decade, I've refined my abilities and increased my natural resistance. This is nothing for me now. Impossible. Todoroki trailed off as Izuku moved and was suddenly in front of him. The vedette's fist was cocked back, and Todoroki instinctively threw up a wall of ice to block. The only problem was his wall of ice was more like a wall of slush. The intense heat radiating down on them from Izuku's midday sun was partially nullifying his Quirk. A large fist passed through the slush and nailed Todoroki in the chest. The heterochromatic teen was knocked off his feet and sent rolling backwards. The longer this fight lasts, the hotter my son gets. Izuku informed his opponent. If it wasn't for your Quirk, you'd probably already have blistered skin and be suffering from heat exhaustion. Shut up, Todoroki panted as he forced his Quirk to work. A wave of ice and slush swamped Izuku. Todoroki continued to force his Quirk as he sent wave after wave of ice and slush at Izuku. The only problem with this strategy was that Todoroki was barely even cooling himself down at this point. The air was so hot they might as well have been standing in a blast furnace. The second problem with his strategy came in the form of Izuku passing through his attacks like they were merely a light mist and socking Todoroki in the jaw. The red-white-haired teen felt his feet come off the ground. His vision developed spots of black as he hit the hot dirt of ground alpha. His head was swimming and he couldn't focus. The last thing he saw with his blurring vision was the bright orange-yellow glow of Midoriya's sun disappearing and the teen standing over him. With Class 1 and All Might. Hot. Mina cried out as the temperature continued to increase. All of the students that had a layer to remove had already done so. Mina had ditched her vest with the faux fur necklining. Kaminari had shook off his jacket, as had Jiro with hers. This is insane. Momo shook her head in disbelief at the number on her digital thermometer. The day had been a pleasant spring day when they'd come out to ground alpha, roughly 21 degrees Celsius. According to her thermometer, it was now 36 degrees Celsius and still climbing. I told you. Toga sighed as she fanned herself as much as possible. It's got to feel like hell where they are. Tokoyami commented, having also removed his long cloak a while back. Shouldn't we stop them? Tsuyu questioned as she wiped her forehead of sweat. The mini-sun dispersing a few seconds later answered the frog-like girl's question. They all watched as Izuku stood over the downed Todoroki. With the disappearance of the sun, all of the students let out sighs of relief when a cool breeze blew through ground alpha. The heat was dispersing and the temperature in the area was dropping back to what it had been. Midoriya is the winner. All Might announced loudly. He rushed onto the field and was at the two teens' side a moment later. I knocked him out, but I don't think I hurt him much beyond that. Izuku informed his idol teacher. His heat resistance is impressive. Yes, he appears to be alright, but just in case. All Might pulled out a small phone-like device and hit a button. Less than a minute later, two robots rolled onto the field with a stretcher between them. They carefully loaded Todoroki onto it before picking it back up and rolling away. Those medic units will take young Todoroki to Recovery Girl for treatment. He'll be fine in short order with her care. UA is impressive. Izuku blinked as he saw both the care and efficiency the small robots had used to get Todoroki to the care of Recovery Girl. No wonder they can train in as close to real-life situations as they do. Quite right, young Midoriya. All Might smiled and gave him thumbs up. Izuku was still bulked up by his quirk, so he had no desire to fanboy squeal. Once he cooled off, then he'd do so. Toga would probably get a giggle out of it, Izuku thought with a grin. The teacher and student walked back to the rest of the class. All Might handed Izuku his support gear axe back, and the Verdette team casually returned it to the special holster on his back. Alright, so next we have Lot B, let's see what you've got. All Might declared as he moved the class forward. That was great, Izuku. Toga smiled brightly at him. Izuku shrank down as he released his quirk and smiled back at his girlfriend. Thanks, Himiko-chan. Izuku pulled her into a hug, and the two squeezed each other gently. It got pretty hot over here, Toga grinned up at him. I don't think they believed me when I told them it was about to get really hot. Ah, sorry about that. Izuku apologized with a grin. I got all sweaty because of you. Toga fake pouted at him, puffing her cheeks up cutely. You'll have to make it up to me. She glanced at him out of the corner of her eye. You want to stop by that crepe place we saw yesterday, don't you? Izuku raised an eyebrow at his girlfriend. Maybe, Toga grinned at him. You could just ask. Izuku chuckled as he kissed her cheek. Toga beamed at him as she held the spot his lips had just left. What am I going to do with YOU? He shook his head fondly at her. I could think of a few things. Toga winked at him with a naughty grin. Not in front of everyone, Himiko-chan. Izuku reminded his amorous girlfriend. Boo. Toga playfully stuck out her tongue. Toga smiled as she and Izuku held hands while they watched their classmates spar with each other. So far no one had even come close to matching what Izuku and Todoroki had done in the first match. Some of the other matches had been quick, while others had dragged out a bit. Match B had been Iida vs Aoyama. The blonde teen had fired his laser at the speedster multiple times, but not a single blast had touched Iida. The match ended with a punishing, high-speed kick from Iida that folded Aoyama over his leg. Iida had apologized profusely to the almost unconscious blonde when All Might had called in the medic units to take Aoyama to Recovery Girl. Match C had dragged on for a while. Kirishima vs Bakugo had seen the screaming bomber actually meet someone that could stand up to his explosion quirk. Kirishima had managed to sock Bakugo in the jaw one good time by punching through the smoke the explosion caused. This led to a back-and-forth match of offense versus defense. Bakugo had more raw power and better mobility, but Kirishima's quirk was so tough it mostly negated Bakugo's force. Toga giggled every time Izuku pulled out his notebook to jot down new observations about his classmates' quirks. Match D was short and sweet. Kaminari vs Kota had ended with the larger teen twitching on the ground. Though it was obvious Kota had never been in a fight a day in his life. The large teen was rather pacifistic and had no real form. Kaminari had ducked a couple of wild punches, then touched Kota. The teen had twitched and let out a shriek from the voltage passing through him before collapsing. Match E had been Sero vs Mina, two mid to long range fighters. Mina had displayed an incredible level of acrobatics and flexibility, dodging Sero's tape. The black-haired boy also had pretty good evasion, quickly dodging every blob of acid Mina chucked at him. At the end of the several minute-long bout, Mina had managed to pull the win by striking Sero's elbows with her acid. The fact that both teens were breathing heavily from all the running and evading showed just how hard it had been for them. Sero had been alright after a few moments of wiping the acidic substance of his skin, with Mina's help. Match F had been Mineta vs Tokoyami. The short teen hadn't seemed perturbed by their bird-headed classmate when he'd matched lots with him. That quickly changed when, just a second after the match started, a shadowy beast had emerged from under Tokoyami's cloak and blitzed Mineta. A large clawed hand slammed the purple-headed boy into the ground and held him completely immobile. After 30 seconds, All Might had called the match in Tokoyami's favor. Toga had stifled herself as she'd broken into full-on laughter at how fast Izuku was riding down Tokoyami's quirk. Match G had been Momo vs Shoji. The large teen proved his own impressive strength by snapping the first bowl-like restraints Momo had used on him. The voluptuous teen had to make a quick retreat when Shoji rushed her. The masked teen's multiple fists had left an imprint in the ground when he'd missed a strike only he could pull off. During her retreat, Momo's stomach had glowed, and a wave of caltrops had fallen onto the dirt between her and Shoji. The tall teen had staggered as he forced himself to stop his charge and avoid stepping on the sharp implements. With some time to think, Momo had created a few items quickly. The Ravenette had barely had time to finish her creations by the time Shoji had rushed around her caltrops and was on her again. Momo dodged the multiple limbs Shoji struck at her with before slamming two of her creations on the ground. A huge blast of smoke obscured everyone's vision as what were apparently smoke bombs went off. They all heard a cry of surprised pain before Momo staggered out of the smoke, cradling her right arm. Already a large bruise was forming on the limb. Shoji strode out of the spoke with multiple large ears at the end of his dupli arms quirk. You heard me. Momo stated and Shoji nodded as the ears reformed into fists. The silver-haired teen moved forward to continue the match, but he took a taser shot to the chest for his trouble. As Shoji collapsed to the ground, his body twitching, Momo revealed the final object she'd made to be a police-style taser gun. All Might called the match in Momo's victory, and the two combatants left the field. Shoji stating he was fine as he gently rubbed the area the nodes had struck him. Match H was Toga's and she was going up against Sato, one of the largest guys in their class. The two made their way out onto the field together, and Sato, in his yellow costume, gave her a nod. Toga grinned at the larger teen, and All Might began the match. Sato grabbed a container and dumped the contents in his mouth. Toga observed carefully to discern what his quirk was, a habit she picked up from Izuku instead of rushing in to try and attack first. Sato's muscles began to expand and bulk up, the yellow costume getting tighter over his frame as he obviously increased his strength. It was sort of similar to Izuku's quirk, but Toga had a feeling the strength increase was nowhere near as much as her boyfriend's. Sato rushed forward, fist cocked back for a devastating punch, and Toga pivoted on her heel to dodge the blow. With her opponent slightly off balance, Toga kicked his ankle hard. Sato went down and collided with the dirt. Toga pulled her knives and leapt onto his back. Sato started to struggle until he felt the metal near his neck. The brunette teen broke out into a sweat at the knives held to his throat. When Toga giggled at his face, Sato was reminded of a slasher film he'd seen once. Midoriya's girlfriend was freaking scary when she wanted to be. I think I win, yeah. Toga asked rhetorically, the knives held stable, not touching him, but also not giving Sato any room to retaliate. Yeah, good match. Sato agreed, and Toga removed her knives and hopped off of his back. With a smile she resheathed her blades. Sato got off the ground as they heard All Might call the match in Toga's favor. You should watch your punches. Toga smiled at her opponent as they walked back towards the group. You put your full weight behind your first punch and upset your balance. It was pretty easy to topple you when you'd already done half the work for me. Yeah, a rush-down strategy didn't work in my favor at all. Sato rubbed the back of his head. Maybe a counterpunch strategy would have worked better. We can try next time we paired up. Toga grinned at him. Sato nodded as he chuckled along. That was great, Himiko-chan. Izuku praised his girlfriend as he pulled her into a hug. Toga smiled beautifully as she snuggled into his arms. Thanks, Izuku. Toga hugged him back. The two turned to observe the second to last match. Match I was Toru versus Jiro. Izuku was pretty sure Jiro had a distinct advantage in this matchup. He was proven right when Jiro, the moment the match started, plugged her jacks into her boots and blasted the area Toru stood in with sound waves. The invisible girl had cried out at the attack, and her gloved hands came up to her ears to try and block out the noise. With Toru incapacitated, Jiro had unplugged one of her jacks and sent it zipping across the space between them. The invisible girl seemed to jolt from the sound waves Jiro blasted directly into her body. The match was quickly called in Jiro's victory. The rocker helped her friend back to her feet, and they walked back to the group together. Match J was the final pairing, and it pitted Achako against Tsuyu. The two took their places on the field across from each other. All Might began the match, and Achako immediately had to jump to the side to avoid Tsuyu's long tongue. Tsuyu demonstrated a good handle on mid-range combat. Achako was doing everything in her power to not get caught, while Tsuyu was merely staying mostly in the same place and launching her tongue. Eventually Achako rushed her friend and Tsuyu took the opportunity provided. The frog-like girl's long tongue struck Achako like a punch. The brunette staggered for a second, but it was all revealed to be part of her plan when she grabbed Tsuyu's tongue. A pink glow covered the tongue and Tsuyu herself. With a battle cry Achako jerked the, now weightless, Tsuyu and tossed her by the extended tongue. Tsuyu riveted in shock as she was whipped through the air. Achako let go, but didn't expect Tsuyu's tongue to wrap around her arm. While she might currently be weightless, that didn't affect her ability to generate force. Tsuyu reeled in her weightless body and as Achako was panicking, and failing to get the frog girl's tongue off her arm, she struck. The highly developed legs of Tsuyu slammed into Achako's torso. The powerful muscles uncoiled and shot the brunette teen backwards across the field. Achako bounced off the ground once before rolling to a stop. Tsuyu used her Quirk's ability to cling to surfaces to attach her back to the ground. Achako shakily stood up, the wind clearly knocked out of her. Tsuyu prepared for another round, but Achako threw up onto the ground, and All Might called the match. The number 1 hero was near instantly at Achako's side and checking up on the girl. A minute later and Achako was recovered enough to release her Quirk. Tsuyu hopped over in a single leap to check on her friend. The two seemed to speak for a moment, but no one except All Might was close enough to hear them. Everything seemed to be okay though as Tsuyu helped Achako walk back to the group. Both girls seemed alright, for the most part, when they got back to everyone else. Achako-chan, are you alright? Toga asked her friend. The brunette smiled, even as she gingerly rubbed her lower chest. I'm alright, Toga-chan. Achako confirmed with a smile. Su-chan just surprised me with that maneuver. I'll be alright. That's good. Toga smiled brightly as she gently pulled Achako into a soft hug. The brunette flushed cutely for a moment, but smiled as she returned the hug. They pulled away with grins as All Might got the class's attention. Excellent work today, students. All Might gave them his signature smile. I saw some good work out there. I'll give some quick advice before I dismiss you all, so listen up. Every student straightened up a bit as they focused on their teacher. Critique from All Might. Izuku looked like he might just start vibrating from how excited he was. Toga took his hand with a muffled giggle. I'll start with the match we just saw. All Might nodded to Chako and Tsuyu. Both of you made good use of your quirks. Each of you was able to surprise your opponent and take advantage of their lapse of concentration. All Might gave the two of them thumbs up. Both Tsuyu and Chako smiled at the praise. But, knowing how someone else might turn your quirk against you is an important part of hero work. Young Asui exemplified this when she made use of her weightless state to deliver the finishing blow. Everyone, barring Bakugo, gave applause for the frog girl's success. Tsuyu riveted happily, even with a blush on her face. Great job, Tsu. Toga hugged her friend. Tsuyu blushed slightly darker, but returned the hug with a bright smile. In the first match, young Midoriya showed excellent control of his quirk. He nearly nullified his opponent's quirk, and then took advantage of that fact to end the fight quickly. Keep that in mind as you train students. Collateral damage is something heroes try and avoid as much as possible. All Might gave praise while also imparting another lesson. Izuku looked like he might pass out from a direct compliment from All Might. That's my Izuku. Toga smiled brightly as she held onto his arm. Young Iida. All Might directed his gaze to the glasses-wearing teen. Iida stood ramrod straight at being addressed. You made excellent use of your quirk and the mobility it gives you. You defeated your opponent in a single blow, and that's impressive. Rendering a villain unable to continue threatening others quickly is the hallmark of a good frontline hero. Thank you, sensei. Iida actually saluted All Might at the praise. Young Bakugo and young Kirishima. All Might smiled at the pair. Kirishima looked excited, while Bakugo tried to hide his interest. You both fought well. However, Bakugo, you must tone down that language. Screaming expletives is not the best look for a hero. Bakugo huffed and turned his head away a bit. In Kirishima, your quirk is excellent and lets you take hits, but don't let your mobility fall to the wayside. Just because you can take a hit, doesn't mean you always should. Yes, sir. Kirishima nodded to All Might with a grin. In Kota, young Kaminari, your match was over quickly. All Might nodded to the pair. Kaminari looked pleased as it was basically praise for him. Kota looked down, either ashamed or just embarrassed. Young Kota, we'll work on your forms to help you make use of your strength along with your quirk in the future. Kaminari, we'll refine your control over your quirk. I noticed you seemed a little off after you used it on your opponent. Kaminari rubbed the back of his head at the mention of his control. Yes, sir. Kaminari replied while the shy Kota just nodded. Young Sero, young Ashido, a most excellent match for demonstrating mid-range combat. Well done. All Might congratulated the two. Both smiled at the praise from their teacher. Mobility is an important part of ranged combat, and I'm glad to see you both have made use of it. We'll work on quirk control and endurance in the coming classes. Yes, sir. Sero grinned, happy he'd made a good impression. Sure thing, sensei. Mina bounced on her heels. The pincat was all smiles. Young Mineta and young Tokoyami, your match was also rather short. All Might mentioned. Mineta slumped a bit at the reminder of his instant defeat. Do not lament, Mineta, we'll work on your reaction speed and mobility during these classes. Tokoyami, we'll be looking into new ways to utilize your quirk. While it is definitely strong, over-reliance on one's quirk can make a hero into a one-trick pony. That isn't enough to make it in the field. Eventually someone will figure out how to get around your quirk. Of course, sensei. Tokoyami nodded to the critique. He knew he had a ways to go with both controlling Dark Shadow and fully utilizing his quirk. Young Yairozu and young Shoji, both of you made excellent use of your quirks out there. All Might gave praise to both of them. Shoji nodded his thanks, and Momo gave a bright smile. Some mobility training would help both of you. We'll also work on your quick thinking skills, Yairozu. In a villain situation you will not always have time to think and formulate a plan. Even if you do, no plan survives first contact with the enemy, as they say, so we'll put you through fast-paced scenarios in the future to work on your response time under pressure. Yes, sensei, I'll do my best. Momo nodded, both of her fists raised up to her chest, and a look of determination on her face. Young Jiro and young Higakure, All Might nodded to both girls. You had a quick match, a bit one-sided because of the incompatibility of your quirks. We'll work on overcoming such things, Higakure. Yes, sensei. Tori replied, clearly a little put out. I'll also be recommending that Midnight help you with a costume redesign. All Might informed her. Toru seemed to perk up at this, though it was hard to tell with the invisibility. With your quirk and the advancements that have been made in mimetic materials and quirk-compatible fibers over the last several years, I'm sure we can get you a much more practical costume. Yes, sir. Toru's bubbly voice returned as she pumped her fist into the air. This has been a good first class. All Might's signature smile beamed at the students again. I've gotten an idea of where each of you stands and can plan our lessons around what we need to work on. Make sure you keep giving it your all, students. We'll constantly be striving to go plus ultra in this class, so look sharp. Yes, sensei. Class won a course while they gave short bows to All Might. Now, watch how Hero leaves like he has somewhere he needs to be. All Might laughed before dashing off so fast he was out of sight before most of them could blink. Oh man, I'm never going to be that fast. Sato lamented as they class started heading for the locker rooms to shower and change. No kidding. Hiroshima remarked. That's so freaking manly. As the guys quickly showered off the sweat of training and changed back into their uniforms, conversation naturally broke out. Some were chatting about how they did today, while others were making small talk. It wasn't until he was buttoning up his uniform shirt that Izuku was fully pulled into the conversations. Hey, Midoriya, what was that crazy move you used during your match? Kaminari questioned the brunette. You made a freaking mini sun that's so hot we were all sweating. Yeah, Yoyorozu made a digital thermometer, and according to her the temperature went from 21 degrees Celsius all the way to 36 degrees Celsius. Your match didn't even take that long. It was insane. Sero exclaimed. None of the guys noticed Bakugo's scowl worsen as he heard their praise for Izuku. I call it Midday Sun. It's an AoE move that should be able to subdue multiple villains at the same time, because of the heat it produces. Not every villain is going to be fire resistant, so I don't want to be horribly burning people every time I fight a villain. Izuku explained his move to his new friends. Yeah, that makes sense. Sato nodded as he got his tie on. Excessive force is a good way to end your own hero career early. Not to mention that no hero wants to accidentally kill someone. Tokoyami spoke up. A hero's main goal is the resolution of a situation or incident with no loss of life. Exactly. Shoji agreed as he fixed his tie and put on his jacket. Frontline heroes need to be strong, no one argues that, but restraint and control should always be at the forefront of their minds. Girls' locker room. Man, Toru sighed as she fastened her skirt. I didn't do very well today, did I? It was just a bad matchup, Toru. Kyoka assured her friend as she pulled on her tie. You'll get better with practice. Yeah, Toru-chan, this class is all about getting better, right? Achako smiled at the invisible girl. Plus, All Might is going to have Midnight Sensei help you redesign your costume. I'm sure that'll help out too. Mina hugged her invisible friend. I can help you with your hand-to-hand if you want, Toru-chan. Toga offered with a smile. Stealthy girls like us have to be able to handle ourselves, right? You girls are the best. Toru quickly tried to pull all 7 girls of Class 1 into a group hug. After the impromptu hug fest was over, Toga pulled on her shoes and checked her phone. With a grin, which was quickly noticed by Mina, Toga bounced slightly. Oh? What's got you so happy, Toga-chan? Mina teased the blonde. Izuku sent me a text saying he'd meet me in the classroom to grab our bags. Toga smiled happily at her phone. We're going to a crepe shop we noticed a few days back. It's a little after school date. That's so cute. Toru gushed as she danced around. I wish you a good time, Toga. Momo smiled at the excited blonde. Have fun. Kyoka grinned, though her cheeks were noticeably pink. Let us know how the crepes are too. Ichako giggled. She likes sweet things. Will do. Toga laughed as she quickly left the locker room and jogged, almost ran, through the halls to get to 1A's room. A few minutes later and Toga was approaching the room. With a grin she threw open the door and skipped into their homeroom. Izuku was waiting there and smiled brightly when he saw her. Toga nearly glomped him as she rushed forward into his arms. Excited, Himiko-chan. Izuku chuckled as he hugged his girlfriend. Yep. Toga pecked his cheek. She quickly grabbed her bag and slung it over her shoulder. Izuku offered her his hand and they left the classroom together. They walked through UA's halls, across the front campus, and past the UA barrier with smiles on their faces. The couple took a train to the next station and disembarked. Walking down the street they quickly found the crepe shop and entered. They were seated and given menus quickly. Toga happily looked at all the options along with Izuku. Toga eventually decided on a strawberry and chocolate crepe, while Izuku got a blueberry crepe. While they waited for their treats they made idle talk. Mostly about their first heroics class and what they expected for tomorrow. 1 strawberry and chocolate, and 1 blueberry. The waitress, a young woman with a quirk that apparently let her freely control the color of her hair, if the ever-changing locks were any indication, smiled at the teens. You two are a cute couple. She commented with a giggle. Toga beamed at the woman and Izuku blushed slightly. Thank you. Izuku's cheeks were warm, which made Toga giggle at him. The waitress left and the two took their first bites. Toga cooed as she ate. It's great. Sweet, but not too sweet, I like it. Izuku agreed with her as he enjoyed his crepe. A few bites later and Toga offered Izuku a bite of her crepe in exchange for a bite of his. The couple happily took a bite from each other's crepe, mixing the flavors of each treat a bit. Izuku noticed a bit of whipped cream on the corner of Toga's mouth. He tapped the same spot on his face, and Toga blinked in realization. Izuku jolted slightly when he felt something brush his leg. He swiftly realized it was Toga's foot. The little minx had apparently gotten her shoe off and was now rubbing up and down his leg with her sock-clad foot. Himiko-chan. Izuku's face was fully red now. You can't get mad at a girl with cream on her face, now can you? Toga giggled as she ran her foot up to his inner thigh before pulling back. You're an evil little minx, aren't you? Izuku mumbled before he took a large bite of his crepe. You know me so well, Izuku. Toga teased, the tip of her tongue poking out from between her lips. Not in public, Himiko-chan. Izuku reminded her with a shake of his head. Boo. Toga playfully pouted, puffing up her cheeks cutely. I've spoiled you too much, haven't I? Izuku smiled fondly at her. Completely rotten. Toga agreed with a giggle as she leaned over and stole another bite of his crepe. Hey. Izuku pulled his crepe away from his playful girlfriend. From over by the entrance to the back their waitress watched the cute couple with a giggle. They were absolutely adorable. She noticed a few of her co-workers thought the same as they'd glance at the couple before looking away with soft smiles. Izuku and Toga paid for their crepes before heading for home. Toga was wrapped around Izuku's arm again, and Izuku had a warm smile on his face. The couple got on their train and sat next to each other, Toga's head on Izuku's shoulder, and Izuku lightly resting his head on top of hers. Both of them were content and looking forward to their future classes and becoming heroes. Thanks for listening. I do hope you enjoyed. If you want the next part of this video, like, subscribe and comment down below, and turn on the bell notification. And also check out other videos that I have created and enjoy. See you in the next video. Peace.